and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio.
In 1991, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves swung into theaters and became an instant box office hit. But behind the bowstrings, castles, and Kevin Costner's heroic glare lies a treasure chest of bizarre, untold stories. From outrageous behind-the-scenes clashes to jaw-dropping salaries, secret improvisations, and even record-breaking chart history, this medieval adventure has more weird facts than arrows in Robin's quiver. Today, we're diving into the strange, hilarious, and downright unbelievable truths you never knew about this cult classic. So, grab your sword, steady your aim, and let's uncover 20 weird facts about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. 1. Kevin Costner's wandering accent. Number 1 on our list is Kevin Costner's unforgettable attempt at an English accent. When Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves was released in the summer of 1991, audiences were eager to see the Hollywood superstar step into the role of the legendary outlaw. Costner had already proven himself as a leading man with films like Field of Dreams and Dances with Wolves, so expectations were incredibly high. But instead of being remembered for a flawless transformation, his performance became famous for something else entirely. His accent was inconsistent and unpredictable, shifting from proper English tones to his natural American voice almost within the same breath. Critics and audiences noticed it right away. In one moment, Robin sounded convincingly noble, and in the very next, he sounded like a modern American man who had wandered into Sherwood Forest. The inconsistency became one of the strangest talking points of the entire film. What made it even more fascinating was the fact that Costner had actually trained with vocal coaches before filming began. Reports suggest that after weeks of struggling, he decided it was better to simply give up rather than risk slowing down production. Director Kevin Reynolds allegedly agreed, allowing him to drift in and out of the accent as he pleased. This decision created one of the most unusual performances in blockbuster history. Instead of damaging the movie, it added to its cult appeal. To this day, fans debate whether it was a mistake or a weird stroke of cinematic charm. 2. Alan Rickman's scene-stealing improvisations. Number 2 on our list belongs to the legendary Alan Rickman, who played the Sheriff of Nottingham with a performance so bold and entertaining that he often overshadowed the hero himself. When Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves arrived in theaters in 1991, audiences were mesmerized by Rickman's ability to turn every line of dialogue into something unforgettable. What many fans do not know is that a large portion of his sharp wit and biting humor did not even come from the script. Rickman improvised much of it on the spot, adding little quirks and outrageous deliveries that transformed the sheriff into one of the most memorable villains of the decade. Some of the most quoted lines in the film came directly from Rickman's imagination. He would twist ordinary dialogue into sarcastic threats or add sudden bursts of humor in the middle of dark moments. The result was a villain who was both terrifying and hilarious at the same time. Even the cast and crew were reportedly caught off guard by his creativity during filming. Director Kevin Reynolds was wise enough to let him run wild because every take seemed to bring something new and unexpected. While Kevin Costner was marketed as the star, many critics agreed that Alan Rickman completely stole the show. His Sheriff of Nottingham was awarded a BAFTA for Best Supporting Actor, proving that his improvisational genius was not only entertaining but critically celebrated. To this day, his over-the-top performance remains a cult favorite and one of the strangest yet most brilliant elements of the entire film. 3. Christian Slater almost walked away. Number 3 on our list takes us to Christian Slater, who played Will Scarlet, the fiery and rebellious member of Robin Hood's band. At the time, Slater was one of the hottest young actors in Hollywood, already well known for films like Heathers and Pump Up the Volume. His casting seemed like a perfect fit, yet what many people do not realize is that Slater almost refused the role altogether. The main reason was Kevin Costner. Slater was reportedly concerned that working with such a powerful star might limit his own creative freedom. Costner was not only the lead actor, but also had enormous influence behind the scenes, and Slater worried that his character would be overshadowed. There were also rumors that Slater questioned the direction of the script and felt unsure about joining such a risky project. After some negotiation and persuasion from the production team, Slater eventually agreed to take the role, and his presence brought youthful energy and tension to the group dynamic. His Will Scarlet clashed with Robin Hood in ways that added depth to the story, making their eventual brotherly bond more powerful. Fans might not realize that without his change of heart, the character could have been very different or possibly removed altogether. In the end, Christian Slater's decision to stay gave the film one of its most memorable supporting performances. His rebellious charm balanced Costner's stoicism and added another strange layer to the behind-the-scenes drama that defined this unusual blockbuster. 4. Sean Connery's expensive cameo. Number 4 on our list is one of the most surprising moments in the entire film. Near the very end of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves audiences were treated to a royal twist when King Richard himself suddenly rode onto the screen. To the shock and delight of moviegoers, it was none other than Sean Connery, wearing the crown and delivering his lines with the kind of authority only he could command. The cameo was short, lasting only a few minutes, yet it became one of the most talked-about appearances in cinema that year. What makes this story even stranger is the price tag that came with it. Connery agreed to film his scene for a staggering sum considering the brevity of the role. Reports state that he was paid a fee equal to hundreds of thousands of dollars for what amounted to just a single day of work. It was an arrangement that demonstrated the power of star presence in early 90s Hollywood. Producers believed that Connery's involvement, however brief, would lend the film an extra level of prestige. In many ways, they were correct. The audience reaction to seeing the iconic James Bond actor as King Richard elevated the finale and provided a sense of grandeur. Yet the cameo remains a weird footnote because of how disproportionate the cost was compared to the screen time. To this day, fans remember Connery's royal entrance as both an iconic surprise and one of the strangest financial decisions of the production. 5. Kevin Costner's controversial bath scene. Number 5 on our list dives into one of the most unexpected controversies of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. In the middle of the film, there is a quiet moment where Kevin Costner's Robin Hood bathes beneath a waterfall. What should have been an ordinary scene of relaxation quickly turned into a subject of debate because audiences were given a glimpse of the star in a way many did not expect. Depending on the version of the film shown, certain shots revealed more of Costner than the studio originally intended. This brief scene caused a stir during early screenings. Some viewers were shocked while others found it amusing, but the reaction was strong enough that producers decided to alter different cuts of the movie. In the United States, some versions left the scene mostly intact, while in the United Kingdom, censors trimmed the moment for being unnecessarily revealing. The decision fueled even more curiosity, and soon the bath scene became one of the most whispered about parts of the film. Behind the scenes, Costner himself was reportedly frustrated that such a minor moment became a distraction. He wanted audiences to focus on the story and not on whether Robin Hood was showing too much skin. Yet in an odd way, the controversy helped keep the film in the headlines and added to its strange legacy. Today, the bath scene is remembered less for what it showed and more for how a few seconds of film created such a lasting buzz in cinema history. 6. Filming at real medieval castles. Number 6 on our list reveals the incredible decision to film at real historical locations. Instead of building every set on a soundstage, the production team of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves ventured deep into the English countryside to capture authentic medieval backdrops. Many of the film's most striking scenes were shot at actual castles, forests, and ruins that had stood for centuries. This gave the movie a sense of realism and grandeur that no studio lot could replicate. One of the most famous locations was Alnwick Castle in Northumberland, a fortress dating back to the 11th century. Its towering walls and majestic courtyards provided the perfect stand-in for Nottingham Castle. Another breathtaking site used was Hadrian's Wall, an ancient Roman barrier that stretched across northern England. The sight of Kevin Costner and his band of outlaws riding alongside a structure nearly 2,000 years old gave the film an epic quality. While these choices added beauty and atmosphere, they also created countless logistical challenges. Transporting cast, crew, and equipment to such remote areas required enormous effort. Weather conditions were unpredictable and sometimes halted filming altogether. Yet despite these hurdles, the gamble paid off. The natural beauty and historical weight of these real sites became part of the film's identity. For audiences, the use of authentic locations added to the illusion that Robin Hood's adventures could truly have taken place there. Decades later, fans still visit these castles, making them enduring tourist attractions tied forever to the legacy of the film. 7. Morgan Freeman's role created from scratch. Number 7 on our list shines a light on a character who did not exist in traditional Robin Hood legends, but became one of the most beloved figures in the entire film. Morgan Freeman played Azim, a Moorish warrior who fights alongside Robin Hood after vowing to stay with him until his life debt is repaid. What many people do not realize is that this role was completely invented for Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. The screenwriters wanted to add diversity and fresh perspective to the story, so they created Azim specifically with Freeman in mind. At the time, Freeman was already respected in Hollywood, but this role allowed him to bring wisdom, humor, and gravitas to a blockbuster that might otherwise have been dominated by sword fights and romance. His character introduced themes of loyalty, faith, and cross-cultural friendship. Azim's presence challenged Robin's worldview and provided guidance in moments of doubt. The chemistry between Costner and Freeman became one of the emotional anchors of the story. Behind the scenes, the decision to create Azim was considered risky. Purists worried it might disrupt the legend, but audiences embraced the character wholeheartedly. In fact, many viewers today mistakenly believe Azim is part of the original Robin Hood folklore. That is a testament to how seamlessly Freeman brought him to life. In the end, Morgan Freeman's role not only enriched the narrative, but also helped redefine what a Robin Hood story could look like, making Azim one of the most memorable additions in cinematic history. 8. Inspiration from Disney's animated Robin Hood. Number 8 on our list takes us to a surprising source of inspiration for the costumes and style of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. While the film aimed for a darker and more realistic take on the legend, some of the costume designers reportedly drew subtle influence from Disney's 1973 animated classic Robin Hood. That was the beloved version where Robin was portrayed as a charming fox, and his merry men were reimagined as animals. For many children of the 70s and 80s, this cartoon was their first introduction to the outlaw of Sherwood Forest. When the production team of Prince of Thieves began planning the look of the characters, they leaned into echoes of that earlier vision. The leather tunics, the hoods, and even the earthy color schemes were reminiscent of the Disney version. Kevin Costner's green and brown wardrobe was crafted to appear rugged and practical, but at the same time it carried hints of the classic cartoon design that audiences already associated with Robin Hood. This influence may not have been deliberate in every detail, yet film historians and fans have noticed the connection over the years. It created an odd contrast between the gritty tone of the film and the nostalgic echoes of an animated tale that was much lighter in spirit. In the end, this blending of inspiration helped give Prince of Thieves its unique visual identity. It reminded audiences of the Robin Hood they grew up with while pulling them into a new and darker adventure. 9. The clash between Kevin Reynolds and Kevin Costner. Number 9 on our list uncovers the tension that brewed behind the scenes between director Kevin Reynolds and star Kevin Costner. On screen, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves looked like a sweeping medieval adventure filled with camaraderie and triumph. But off-screen, the relationship between the leading actor and the director was anything but harmonious. Reports from the set describe frequent disagreements about creative choices, pacing, and even the portrayal of Robin Hood himself. Costner, already a major Hollywood power at the time, had strong opinions about how his character should appear. He wanted Robin to be heroic and noble, while Reynolds pushed for a grittier and more grounded portrayal. This clash of visions created an environment of constant friction during filming. Crew members recalled days when arguments delayed shooting, and decisions had to be made at the last minute to keep production moving forward. The tension grew so intense that by the time the film was completed, their professional relationship was in pieces. In fact, Reynolds distanced himself from the final cut and even left Costner's circle of collaborators for several years afterward. The feud became well known in Hollywood circles and added to the strange aura surrounding the film's troubled production. Yet despite the battles behind the camera, the end result was a movie that audiences around the world embraced. The strange clash of egos may have fueled some of the very intensity that made the story feel larger than life, turning conflict into cinematic energy. 10. A budget that spiraled out of control. Number 10 on our list explores the financial roller coaster that nearly overwhelmed Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. At the beginning of production, the movie was expected to be a fairly modest adventure with a controlled budget. However, as filming continued, costs began to climb higher and higher until the project had ballooned into one of the most expensive films of its time. A large portion of the overspending came from the ambitious choice to film on location at castles and forests across England. Transporting cast, crew, and heavy equipment to remote medieval sites added weeks to the schedule. Weather delays were constant, and every day of downtime cost thousands of dollars. On top of that, creative disagreements between Kevin Costner and director Kevin Reynolds slowed the process even more, leading to additional reshoots and extended schedules. Another factor was the desire to create elaborate set pieces that would stand out from previous Robin Hood adaptations. Huge forest camps, sprawling battles, and a fiery climax inside Nottingham Castle all required massive builds and countless extras. What started as an exciting challenge soon became a budgetary nightmare. By the time the film was finished, the total cost had far exceeded what the studio had planned. Executives were nervous about whether audiences would turn up in large enough numbers to justify the expense. Fortunately, the gamble paid off when the film became a global hit, yet the runaway budget remains one of the strangest aspects of its legacy, a tale of ambition nearly sinking itself. 11. Bryan Adams and the Birth of a Power Ballad. Number 11 on our list takes us beyond the screen and into the world of music, where Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, unexpectedly created one of the greatest love ballads of all time. When Canadian rock star Bryan Adams was approached to write a song for the movie, he teamed up with composer Michael Kamen, who had scored the film. Together, they crafted the song "Everything I Do It For You," a sweeping anthem that captured the romance and emotional weight of Robin and Marion's love story. What made this collaboration so unusual was how quickly the song exploded into a cultural phenomenon. It was not just a soundtrack piece that faded into the background. It became a global hit, dominating radio stations and music charts in ways rarely seen before. The single topped charts in more than a dozen countries and became one of the best-selling singles of the entire decade. The song's success helped propel the film's popularity as well. Even people who had never seen Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves recognized Bryan Adams' heartfelt ballad. The track earned awards, countless radio plays, and a permanent place at weddings and love story montages for years afterward. In a strange twist of fate, the film that had been plagued by production troubles suddenly had a weapon no critic could ignore. Bryan Adams' song turned into the emotional heartbeat of the movie and remains one of the most powerful legacies ever attached to a Hollywood blockbuster. 12. A song that ruled the charts. Number 12 on our list continues with the incredible journey of Bryan Adams' ballad, "Everything I Do It For You." While many movie songs become popular after a few weeks, this one rewrote the record books. In the United Kingdom, it stayed at the #1 spot for 16 consecutive weeks, a feat that no other single had achieved before. Week after week, it held its ground against every new release, dominating radio airplay and sales. The sheer longevity of its reign turned it into a cultural event of its own. Across the Atlantic, the success was nearly as strong. In the United States, the song reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and held that spot for 7 weeks. Globally, it sold millions of copies and earned Bryan Adams awards and nominations, including a Grammy win for Best Song Written for a Motion Picture. For many people around the world, the song became more famous than the film itself. This dominance was both a blessing and a curse for the movie. On one hand, the soundtrack gave Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves a massive boost in popularity. On the other hand, some critics joked that audiences went to theaters just to hear the song again. Even today, more than 3 decades later, the ballad remains a staple on classic radio and continues to define the legacy of the film. Its chart success was so overwhelming that it still stands as one of the strangest triumphs connected to a Hollywood blockbuster. 13. The battles with censorship. Number 13 on our list takes us into the controversy that Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves faced with film censors, especially in the United Kingdom. While audiences may remember the movie as a swashbuckling adventure filled with romance and action, regulators at the time saw something very different. They were concerned that the level of violence and sexuality was too strong for younger viewers. As a result, several scenes were either cut or toned down before the film could be released in British theaters. One of the most notable edits involved the brutality of the Sheriff of Nottingham. Alan Rickman's performance was brilliant but also dark, and certain moments of his cruelty had to be trimmed for fear of upsetting audiences. Another sequence that drew attention was the attempted assault on Marion, which censors believed was too intense for a mainstream adventure film. Even Kevin Costner's famous bath scene did not escape scrutiny, with some versions shortened to avoid revealing too much. These changes created a strange situation where international audiences were not always seeing the same version of the movie. Fans in America were getting a more complete cut, while British audiences were given an edited version that softened some of the more controversial edges. Ironically, the censorship only fueled curiosity. Viewers wanted to know what they were missing, and the uncut scenes became a subject of discussion among fans. Today, these differences remain part of the film's unusual history, a reminder of how one blockbuster could spark debates about content across the globe. 14. A hidden Christian theme in Azim's journey. Number 14 on our list explores a surprising spiritual layer woven into the story through the character of Azim. Played by Morgan Freeman, Azim was not part of the original Robin Hood folklore, yet his presence added depth and a sense of faith that resonated with audiences. Beyond his wisdom and loyalty, Azim's journey carried a subtle Christian theme that often goes unnoticed on a first viewing. From the beginning, Azim is introduced as a man of conviction who owes his life to Robin. He vows to remain by his side until that debt is repaid. This promise mirrors the idea of sacrificial love and covenant loyalty found in Scripture. Throughout the film, he serves not only as Robin's protector but also as a moral compass, guiding him with patience and reminding him of higher truths. His respect for life, his reliance on prayer, and his willingness to endure suffering all carry echoes of biblical virtues. One of the most striking examples comes in the climactic rescue scene where Azim fulfills his vow by saving Marion. His perseverance and ultimate act of deliverance symbolically reflect themes of redemption and keeping one's word even at great cost. For a film remembered mostly for its action and romance, this spiritual undercurrent gave it an unexpected layer of meaning. In the end, Azim's character became more than just a sidekick. He embodied a quiet faith and strength that gave Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, a moral dimension rarely seen in Hollywood blockbusters of the early 90s. 15. The arrow shot that changed cinema. Number 15 on our list highlights one of the most visually unforgettable moments in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, the famous arrow point-of-view sequence. In this scene, an arrow is loosed from Robin's bow and the camera follows it in flight as it streaks through the air toward its target. For audiences in 1991, this was unlike anything they had seen before. It was bold, fast, and thrilling, giving viewers the sense that they themselves were flying with the arrow. The effect was achieved using early computer-generated imagery combined with clever camera work. At a time when digital technology was still in its infancy, this kind of sequence required innovation and creativity. The crew developed a system that simulated the rapid forward motion and created the illusion of speed and impact. It was not flawless by modern standards, but at the time it stunned audiences and became one of the film's signature visuals. What makes it even stranger is that this groundbreaking moment was added almost as an experiment. The filmmakers wanted to inject extra energy into the action scenes and thought following the arrow would give the battles a unique edge. Their gamble worked, and the shot has since been copied and parodied in countless movies, television shows, and even video games. To this day, the arrow cam remains one of the weird but brilliant flourishes that set Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves apart. It was a daring risk that pushed the boundaries of cinematic storytelling in the early 90s. 16. Kevin Costner's massive payday. Number 16 on our list pulls back the curtain on the staggering amount of money Kevin Costner earned from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. By the early 1990s, Costner was one of the most bankable stars in Hollywood. Coming off the success of Dances with Wolves, he had both the leverage and the reputation to command a remarkable deal. For Robin Hood, he reportedly negotiated not just a salary, but also a share of the profits, a strategy that turned out to be incredibly lucrative. While exact figures vary, most reports suggest that Costner walked away with around $40 million once the box office totals and home video sales were counted. For perspective, that sum in the early 90s was the kind of payday almost no actor had ever seen before. His deal made him one of the highest-paid stars of the decade and set a precedent for the profit-sharing model that many top actors began to pursue afterward. The irony is that despite his enormous earnings, Costner's performance received mixed reviews, with many critics pointing out his uneven accent and at times wooden delivery. Yet his financial victory was undeniable. The movie grossed hundreds of millions worldwide, and his back-end deal ensured that he benefited more than anyone else involved. In the end, Kevin Costner's Robin Hood may have divided audiences, but his bank account told a different story. His payday became one of the weirdest yet most legendary aspects of the film's legacy. 17. Alan Rickman wins the glory. Number 17 on our list celebrates the way Alan Rickman turned a supporting role into an award-winning triumph. While Kevin Costner was the marquee name, it was Rickman's larger-than-life performance as the Sheriff of Nottingham that critics and audiences could not stop talking about. His mix of menace and outrageous humor transformed the character from a simple villain into a scene-stealing force of nature. Every glare, every sarcastic line, and every burst of rage felt unforgettable. The brilliance of his work did not go unnoticed. In 1992, Rickman won the BAFTA Award for Best Supporting Actor, an honor that placed him above every other cast member in terms of critical recognition. This was particularly unusual for a blockbuster adventure film, as awards often lean toward dramas or period pieces. Yet Rickman's Sheriff was so magnetic that he broke through the usual barriers and earned the highest praise possible from the British Academy. What makes this fact even stranger is that Rickman himself reportedly thought the role was too over the top when he first read the script. He worried about being cartoonish, but his improvisation and daring choices ended up defining the movie's identity. To many fans, his performance became the reason to watch the film again and again. In the end, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves may be remembered for Kevin Costner's inconsistent accent, but it was Alan Rickman's award-winning sheriff that gave the movie its lasting power and cult status. 18. The mystery of the extended cuts. Number 18 on our list reveals the curious story of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves having multiple extended versions. Most moviegoers remember the standard theatrical release, which already ran for more than 2 hours, but dedicated fans later discovered that the film existed in several longer edits. These extended cuts added anywhere from 12 to 14 extra minutes of footage, changing the rhythm of the story and even adding new layers to certain characters. One of the most noticeable differences was the additional focus on the Sheriff of Nottingham. Alan Rickman's performance was already legendary, but in the extended editions, audiences saw more of his plotting and strange interactions, making him appear even darker and more eccentric. Other scenes gave extra context to Robin's men, fleshing out side characters who had been mostly in the background. Even Morgan Freeman's Azim received a few more moments of depth, emphasizing his loyalty and wisdom. These alternate versions were not widely available at first. They surfaced on special edition VHS tapes, laserdiscs, and later on DVD, creating a sense of treasure hunting among fans who wanted to see the complete vision. The existence of multiple cuts also fueled speculation about conflicts behind the scenes, with some believing that the studio trimmed the movie to emphasize Kevin Costner, while the extended versions reflected more of Kevin Reynolds' direction. Today, the extended cuts remain a fascinating part of the film's legacy. They highlight how one blockbuster could exist in different forms, each shaping the story in unique ways. 19. Costner's secret fear of failure. Number 19 on our list uncovers Kevin Costner's hidden doubts about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. By the early 1990s, Costner was riding high on the success of Dances with Wolves, a film that had won multiple Academy Awards and established him as one of Hollywood's most powerful figures. Yet behind his confident image, there was a lingering fear that his next big project might turn into an embarrassing flop. During production, Costner reportedly worried about the uneven tone of the movie, the clashing visions between himself and director Kevin Reynolds, and the heavy criticism surrounding his wavering accent. Early test screenings did little to calm his nerves. Some audiences reacted negatively, and whispers began to circulate that the movie might collapse under its own ambition. Costner was so concerned that he quietly prepared himself for the possibility of a major box office disappointment. What makes this fact so fascinating is the contrast between his private fears and the film's ultimate success. Instead of failing, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves became one of the biggest hits of 1991, grossing hundreds of millions worldwide. The song by Bryan Adams helped propel it even further, and the movie eventually achieved cult status. Costner's doubts reveal a very human side to a star often seen as larger than life. Even at the height of his fame, he could not escape the worry of failure. Ironically, those fears only add another strange and memorable layer to the story behind this legendary film. 20. From criticism to cult status, the last fact on our list looks at the surprising afterlife of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. When the film was first released in 1991, critics were divided. Some praised its sweeping adventure and star power, while others mocked Kevin Costner's uneven accent and pointed out its over-the-top tone. Reviewers questioned its long-running time and complained that it leaned too heavily on spectacle rather than substance. For a moment, it seemed destined to be remembered as a flawed blockbuster of its era. Yet something remarkable happened in the years that followed. Despite the criticism, audiences continued to embrace the film. Families bought the VHS tapes, fans wore out their copies of the soundtrack, and Alan Rickman's Sheriff of Nottingham became a pop culture icon. What the critics dismissed as uneven, viewers came to cherish as unique. The mix of romance, action, humor, and even awkward moments gave the movie a personality that set it apart from more polished but forgettable productions. Over time, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves transformed into a cult classic. Fans quote Rickman's improvised lines, revisit Morgan Freeman's wise and loyal Azim, and still debate the infamous waterfall bath scene. Tourists continue to visit the castles and forests where the film was shot. For many people, it represents the kind of epic adventure that defined early 90s cinema. What began as a controversial release has endured as a nostalgic treasure. Its weird mix of flaws and brilliance is exactly what makes it unforgettable more than 3 decades later. Which of these facts grabbed your curiosity? Share them in the comments. Remember to hit the like button and subscribe. Before you go, click on the video displayed on your screen.